Okay, moving right along. Let's get some
Live content on. So what we're going to do is play The Secret Life of Walter Mitty to show one specific scene where we found where there's an issue with the color of a...
Oppo with sound, I hope?
No, it's Oppo 1 or Oppo 2.
Well, what's Oppo with sound?
Okay. Well, it's supposed to be a bluish green. But if you see one that looks green, that's what we're speaking of. This is the importance of getting good color, fidelity. So as you can see here, this is green. This is not. So this is the importance of color fidelity, color tracking, decoding, gamut. When all of it's done right, all of these displays should look very similar minus their technological differences. So this is just one sample of many where if your color's not right, again, you will never know unless you either, one, know what the content's supposed to look like, or two, have another reference besides. So this is one of the anomalies that you have to watch out for. This is where we come into play, because the regular...
Whenever the green car is on, okay, look away from this.
Right now, we've also saw some differences in other colors. For instance, there's one scene where the guy's jacket is supposed to be blue, a blue tint to it. But on this one, it turns gray. Again, color tracking problems.
The other thing is, be sure you're looking at this on angle, because
right.
I'm looking at the 8550 over here, and it's not right from my vantage point.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got to be dead on.
Over here,
you have to be dead on.
It looks just fine. Just always keep that in mind. You got a curved display, which is the right angle. No angle.
Signal generator. All right, so while Kevin gets the rest of the test signals together, I wanted to talk a little bit about Chroma subsampling, especially because I feel there's a bit of, what we hear from readers, there's a bit of misinformation, there's a lot of confusion going on about this. The way manufacturers have marketed displays that have higher Chroma bandwidth is, I think it's incredibly misleading. Obviously, the marketing department's job is to, produce... It's to sell TVs in the simplest way possible, but I think in doing the simplest thing possible, the message is lost. This was Panasonic actually, when they last year had a feature called 1080p Pure Direct, which was intended to preserve the tiniest color details in the image. It actually didn't, but it came very close. They have here for a standard 422 image, which consumers actually don't have access to. All we have access to is 428-bit, as Joe mentioned earlier. They used an image of a small pack of crayons, or pencils, but when we have a 444 image, they used a large, more crayons, which I think the average consumer is going to take from that a TV with support for 444 has more colors available, which is actually not the case. The numbers 420, 422, or 444, these refer not to the number of colors available, but to the resolution of the colors. So again, this is another example. I think this is from Onkyo, pure color. So it's the practice of reducing the resolution of the colored layers. It's nothing new. It goes all the way back to analog NTSC, where it was necessary to squeeze colored information on top of black and white base signal while retaining backwards compatibility. And that technique made the jump to digital video, but the compression algorithms we have today make this a pretty crude of data reduction by comparison. Just to give you an example, this is a full color image. If we break it into the luminance channel and the two colored components, the color difference layers, this is what your TV has to work with to reconstitute an RGB image, a full color image. So 444 format is full resolution chroma. The AC's on. Full resolution chroma with full resolution luma, as always, with full resolution chroma. In all of these formats, the luma stays at full resolution. In all the consumer formats, we have at least some professional ones subsample that too. The idea being that the human visual system is much more sensitive to luminance information than it is to color. So in a way, like the chroma resolution is kind of like the whipping boy of the video industry. If there's ever anything that's going to get filtered or reduced or compressed more, it's chroma for that reason. But we have better ways to deal with that now. So as Joe mentioned earlier, it's getting a little old now. A lot of professional video formats use 422 sampling, which means, again, full resolution luma, the chroma is half resolution horizontally. And when we get to consumer video, it's even worse. We have, again, full resolution luma, thank goodness, but now we have half horizontal and half vertical resolution color difference channels. Again, Blu-ray disc, for example, the best format we have in the home at the moment, it's technically 420, but this is a screenshot from one popular video encoder. This is actually the DVD version. The Blu-ray version is very similar. The default settings in this actually reduce the luma resolution, which is this white line here, and quite aggressively roll off details in the chroma as well. So even though the Blu-ray format is technically 420, in effect, you're actually getting less information in there. Thankfully, though, a lot of studios know better than this, and will give you the whole thing, or as best they can on the disc. So obviously the downrisk chroma channels, they have to be upsampled again before display, and different displays handle that differently. Some of them give us color fringing in this example, taken off a projector. That can happen either in the Blu-ray or DVD player, in the AV receiver, or in the display. So, for example, a lot of people online ask us, for example, my Oppo Blu-ray player, what is the best output format? Do I output 422 or 444 or RGB from the player? The answer, as always, is it depends on your system. Some TVs actually perform better with RGB, believe it or not. Some displays like to be fed 444 for the best result. That is having the player upsample. Panasonic Blu-ray players actually had a feature which would attempt to intelligently reconstruct the missing data. The difference is pretty subtle, I find. And oh yeah, one thing I want to leave you with on chroma subsampling is we think of 444 as full resolution luma and chroma. That is not necessarily, if you have a 444 video though, that's not necessarily everything that the lens saw, because I believe all 4K cameras at the moment, Mr. Kane will correct me if I'm wrong here, and certainly a lot of HD and SD ones as well, use one imaging sensor, and they allocate more pixels to capturing green than they do red or blue. So the rest of them are essentially interpolated in either in camera or in post-production. That's called bare filtering. So yeah, so moving on to motion resolution now. Let's, oh yeah.
The numbers for whatever they be, relate to the amount of time for sampling the red, green, and blue?
No. It's the sampling frequency. The numbers for 4, when we were back in the NTSC domain, it related to the 3.58 megahertz subcarrier. And so it was how many times, the subcarrier drove the whole system. So the 4 was 4 times the subcarrier. The 2 was 2 times the subcarrier. So it referred to the sampling rate, and the sampling rate was based on the subcarrier. That's where it came. That's where it initially came from. But of course, the subcarrier, once we went to true component, subcarrier was gone. So now it's just a ratio of samples. So what we're trying to tell you is full luminance, we're doing 4 times sampling, and chroma, we're doing 2 times sampling, or the 0. When you have 420, it's half the time it's one of the chroma samples, like CR, and the other half the time it's CB. So that's it. It originally came from the subcarrier, and the sampling rate related to the subcarrier. But as soon as we left the NTSC domain, it had no meaning other than a ratio of sampling, ratio of samples.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on to motion resolution. If we can get an AB loop going. Samsung's gone off again. There we go. So this is the motion resolution test chart from the FPD benchmark software Blu-ray disc. It was originally designed, I should say, as a promotional tool for plasma displays. We find it still very useful in assessing motion resolution. From the top, we have chunky lines, which are fairly easily resolved in any display, going all the way down to 1080 lines, which is a harder job. Sure. One thing we should mention is the different choices we used for motion interpolation in all the LCD displays. So the Samsung displays this year included a mode called LED clear motion, which scans the backlight. That means that you can get higher motion resolution without having to resort to interpolation techniques, meaning that for full motion sports content, you'll be able to see very, very clean motion. Not, again, maybe not plasma clean or different, whereas movies won't take on the soap opera look. Some people might complain about a little bit of flicker. Personally, I like that. It's a little more CRT or plasma-like. It's, you know, choice is up to the user. The Sony displays have a similar mode called Impulse, and I think they actually had an effective backlight scanning mode first. We didn't use it in this case though because we found it lost too much light output to be of much use. And again, the plasma doesn't need any processing at all to achieve that result. That's just done naturally by the way, down to the way a plasma display operates. The OLEDs, unfortunately, right now the OLEDs available to us are using sample and hold display technology, which is the same as LCD. Samsung countered this. I believe it's a dark frame insertion mode. So that is very effective in getting high motion resolution. The LG one, Dwayne, when you calibrated the LG, what interpolation options were available, and did you choose to use them or not?
No, I did not.
They're completely inactive.
Correct.
So we're going to show you a practical example of this in 1 minute. This is the test chart so far.
Just one.
Okay.
Why does this one have a ghost? That's weird.
That is a good question.
855, 8550, yeah. Got a ghost,
It could-
big ghost. This
it-
has got a ghost too.
It could be down to the exact synchronization of the backlight scanning with the LCD panel. Maybe it's off a little.
Nice and clear, but
Let me get back here. So that's smooth.
Okay. So we should point out, if you can move aside a sec, we should point out the LG OLED display. There are motion interpolation options which you can use to get not quite a full 1080 lines. It's around 600 lines in motion resolution, I think. You can improve the motion resolution on the LG OLED display using the interpolation features. You might want to do that with high motion video content like sports, for example. Personally, we would turn this off for movies because it'll give you the soap opera effect. And again, we want the whole picture, the right picture, nothing but the picture. No extra motion.
They do have a custom micro.
All right. There we go, nice and quiet. So again, this is, if you can still hear, this is a real-world application of what we were looking at in a test signal before. So what you should be looking for artifact-wise is this girl's striped shirt, which is like a test pattern in itself. The entire image is quite high frequency, so the background is relatively well focused, and so is this girl's interesting wardrobe. If the display is interpolating due to the difficulty of doing that, you'll probably see some kind of shredding. Of course, the Sonys are using a little bit of interpolation and a little bit of backlight scanning, so a combination of techniques. If there are any interpolation issues, you'll see some shredding or ghosting around where the girl moves against the background. I think we're going to pass the mic to Joe.
All right. There's an issue of inserting black frames on OLED. OLED can switch as fast as you can possibly see. There isn't any blur in OLED all by itself. And I've ended up proving this by photographing the OLED display with a high-speed camera. I photographed the OLED display at 960 pictures per second. There is no blur in the OLED. The blur that you see is retentivity of the image in your mind. And you literally have to put a black frame in to erase your mind.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's what's going on.
Does that also increase our perceived minimum luminance level at the black light?
All right, you perceive the problem of flicker at higher luminance levels. And so what happens is, as OLEDs have a capability of giving you a very bright display, or much more important, a high contrast, this high contrast makes the retentivity in your mind longer.
Hey, Joe, can you talk a little bit about...
Excuse me, I have a different opinion.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, there aren't many things I can catch Joe on, but this one I think I have. What it is your eye tracks the moving image. And so it's not in your mind. It's actually happening in your eye. So what happens is as your eye tracks the moving image, if you have a blocky image that's, a hold image stays constant for 1/60th of a second, okay? As your eye moves, and it goes from one frame to the next, you get a blur, okay? And that's why you have a problem with hold-type displays. The CRT never had this problem because it was a pulse, okay? It was a real narrow pulse. So it strobed on your eye. As your eye moves, it strobed on your eye, gave you that constant image, and then the next pulse, you saw the next image, which is separate, and your brain then melded those together as a smooth thing. So the reason it's a blur is the same reason that LCDs have blur, if they're hold, because if you leave it on for a 60th of a second, and your eye is moving, you're going to be blurring those. So that happens in your eye. No, it's your eye. It's your eye that's blurring. Your eye that's blurring as it moves. Now, if you put the dead zone in between, the black, what would you call it, the black insertion. Okay, then you've essentially made that pulse, and instead of a 60th of a second, you've made it 120th of a second long, and so there's less blurring. It's not going to completely solve the problem like the CRT did, but it's going to be less. Okay?
Can you talk about one more thing? There's three things that cause blur. The panel, you, the human being, and there's also judder. And judder is the reaction, how fast the panel does not reduce judder. So that's where frame interpolation comes in. When somebody shoots the Mount Everest with a camera with the wrong shutter speed and it's judder, that's where the frame interpolation comes in to eliminate that. So there are benefits to having these technologies.
So
you just choose which one you need.
to resolve judder, really, we have to move to higher frame rate capture. Otherwise, the only other solution is using frame interpolation to create frames which were never in the content in which the director.
It's a band-aid, but what do we do when someone does? Steven Spielberg knows exactly that his camera should be 180-degree shutter speed. I shoot a 24-frame picture, it's 148. I shoot a 30 frame image, it should be 160. If I shoot a 60, it should be 120. I go off on that, I end up with judder. Bad camera work is the other.
Well, that's the point. But Hollywood professionals are obviously they're gonna film in such a way that the limitation of 24 FPS film is reduced.
And you're right. And Steven Spielberg would never do it. George Lucas would never do it. But Bob Smith, who's shooting Discovery Channel, does it all the time.
For home video content, perhaps.
And the TV has to be able to deal with both of them.
Okay, so the last part. Kevin, did you give us the HQV disc in either of these players?
Yes, it's in the other player.
Okay, Oppo 2. Let's just double check.
In the 6 megahertz channel, you fit particular data rate. And however you manage to block error, well, eventually when we come up with better audio goes in there.
We need better compression.
Ready? Ready to go? Sorry to interrupt you. Okay. One of the final tests for video processing we do relates to 2-3 pull down detection. So in the 60 hertz world, for transferring 24 frames per second film into a 60 hertz signal, a pattern of repeating fields called 3-2 pull down was used. That's contrary to what was done in the 50 hertz world, where the film was sped up slightly to run at half of the mains frequency. So that's 24 frames per second film into 25 frames per second, 4% speed up. Apparently it wasn't noticeable. I completely disagree. Fortunately, here in the US, we don't have to deal with that. What we do have to deal with instead is the deinterlacer has to take this into account. So it has to recognize this pattern of redundant fields and pick out exactly the right ones so that we can get a reconstruction of the 24 FPS output. You'll see here actually a good demo of what goes wrong when this is not done correctly. The Samsung displays have 2 modes. I believe this is Auto 1 or Auto 2 at the moment. So the Samsung displays do this correctly in film mode Auto 1. If they weren't doing it correctly and we were in Auto 2 mode or even off, the entire image would be treated as if it was video, as if it was pure 60i video camera generated content. Oh, let's go back to the pattern. So what's happening here is the TV's deinterlacing the entire image and trying to interpolate every second line from above and below, which is why you're getting this distortion. Again, the Samsung display does pass this test in the Auto, which one was it? Auto 1 mode. Auto 1. The LG is giving us a pass as well. The Sony displays are not. Their option for this is called Cinemotion in the US market. It is, I think some of these artifacts are actually down to the motion interpolation, so if Dwayne could double check that for us. What happens, Dwayne, if you turn off motion flow entirely? True Cinema, it's called? No, motion flow off. There you go. Okay, so this actually is a deinterlacing issue then, not a motion interpolation one. If the motion interpolation is turned off and we still see some artifacting. Now, to relate this to real world content, the next clip on here is of a slow pan across this stadium here. If the entire image is being treated as if it was 60i video, you would be seeing a loss of resolution and flickering and moire patterns in this high frequency area here in the stands. So, how are the Sonys doing on this? A small amount of flicker here. It is actually possible that displays will fail the first test, but actually pass the real world example, because the first one is particularly difficult. So, looks good. So in this real world example, the Sonys are fine, but not on the test material. The other case, of course, is that's all well and good for extracting 24p images back out of a 60i broadcast signal. If your content, though, was shot with video cameras in the first place, for example, like a high motion sporting event, something like that, or a soap opera even, there is no way to losslessly reconstructs a signal as it would have been if interlacing wasn't employed. All the TV can do in that case is interpolate from lines above and below to try and get a full a full vertical resolution image out. For that, we have the Jaggies test. This tests the ability of the display to kind of cover its tracks to diagonally interpolate. Actually, I've got a better one here. Back on this. So in this case, the Samsung displays, there we go. The Samsung displays and the LG OLED display are doing a very good job of concealing the interlaced origins of this material. You'll be able to see the 3 rotating lines are very smooth. There's an almost unnoticeable flicker occasionally. The Sony displays are not doing so well at all in their diagonal interpolation. You can see on the left steep edge of the 3rd line here, as it moves up and down, you can see where the interlacing has caused resolution loss. Again, there is no perfect way. There's a real art to designing this. There's no perfect way to fully recover details from a signal that was captured interlaced. The TV basically just has to do the best job it can in concealing jaggedness. So, what we're actually about, yeah, what we're actually about to do is play a 24p clip from Blu-ray. It's the BD of Skyfall. This is really just to test more panel response time than it is to test any kind of video processing. If
Ooh, if you want to look at panel response time, there's a pretty good pattern on FPV.
which one is that?
In resolution. Whichever.
Let's go for Skyfall. Let's play it with content.
Yeah, man.
At a manageable volume, though.
Is the audio player the second one on the bottom? That's a Wendy question.
Yeah, I think it is, if it's an audio receiver, I think.
No, it's in the second player, so
Oh,
tell
I
me if
see.
that's not correct.
We'll find that out.
Let's still process.
Real interesting fact here that I want
Robert.
everybody in the world to know about. And this is a very interesting fact. When we vote here tonight and last night, you're voting on each individual panel's attribute for each and every attribute of picture quality. So you can take any two TVs that you're interested in buying and cross out with a black magic marker all the rest of them. And that's your evaluation. When we compare them globally across all of it, we do that after we have individually voted one at a time without looking at any other panels. So you can pull any two or three out of this matrix. And so those are the ones I want to buy, I'm interested in. Let's see how they compare it against each other. Take a black magic marker, cross out all the other ones, and just look at the ones that interest you. And you'll see how they compare against each other. Now, I gave you what I called my bottom line yesterday about all of this that we went over. And it's the same, I have the same feeling today as I've had all week, yesterday and all week. And that is, if you can use a screen size that's 64 inches or 60 or 51, I would buy that plasma TV while you still can. If you can work with a 55-inch panel, the main reason I would pick this one is because it's $3,500. And I would say buy it before LG realizes that they mismarked it. You missed something out of that, because look at this. Is that sick or not? And this is equally as good, and some argue even better.
Can I just add something here? This is something I'd like to point out that we weren't able to get at real-world content to show it in time. One thing I feel is very important in accurate video that I feel is kind of being glossed over. A little louder, sorry. One thing I feel that's important for accurate reproduction of the content is to recover all of the details from the source. That means no noise reduction. We want to see every texture in the source. We don't want anything being blurred out in motion, as is often the case. The Samsung and the Sony displays here have defeats for their noise reduction controls. The only display at the moment that we have here that is not returning every single texture from that we feed it is actually the LG OLED. It is actually doing noise reduction at all times, and we couldn't find any way to shut that off. It is pretty light at this screen size especially. We don't envisage any people being really, really upset by it, but there's also no reason for it. We should be able just to put images in and get them out again. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say, because I think it is often being overlooked. The color science, certainly, the contrast ratio, the color science is, I would agree, more important, but while that's important for a well-engineered display, there is no reason that I can think of to not allow the viewer to opt out to get, again, I'm going to repeat this, the whole picture, the right picture, and nothing but the picture, as is the ISF way. So, well, it could be a firmware fix. Whether or not that will happen, though, you'd have to ask LG. It happened with... will the 4K OLED have the same issue? I absolutely hope not, because the bigger the screen size, well, this is a point I made, you know, we can't tell until it's out. But I mean, at this screen size, losing a little bit of right, that's a question for LG. at this is a point I want to make. At this screen size, losing a little bit of detail from a 1080p source, especially if you're sitting far away from it, it's not the end of the world, but we hope this gets nixed. We hope this is gone by the time the bigger OLEDs start rolling out, because that would be fairly heartbreaking. So, thank you.
So I think everybody understood what my take is on this whole event, and I can't verify, and I've tried to, an article that I've read that was written by Mr. Greg Tarr here, and I'm sure it's accurate. I have no doubt about it, in that this product will be available exclusively at Best Buy starting August 24th. That's not true? It was changed. I'm so glad you're here, Greg. You want to stand up and tell us all?
What I was told. A number of stores will have it on August 24th.
Am I in that number? Well, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Because I was going to say, if everybody likes me enough and is interested in buying it, maybe they'll wait that 30-day moratorium, but maybe I'll be on that good list. I would hope I am. So my bottom line is, if that's a good size for you, just simply because it's so stunning and the price is so low for such an incredible picture, this is the way to go. If you need a larger screen and up to a 64 inches okay, my bottom line is I would grab that. They're not going to be on any kind of fire sale, okay? And there's one more thing. We extended a promotion yesterday. This is the only promotional pitch, and we're going to continue that for till Friday of this coming week. So I can only whisper it, and it is that you'll buy the TV from us, and we will have our expert panel of calibrators, you pick who you want, calibrate the panel as a courtesy. So you'll get a QC, a full stabilization and break-in with the proper break-in method, and it'll be professionally calibrated by the top calibrators who have a lot of experience in this and have worked with all the engineers from all these companies to learn all the tricks on tweaking these things. And that'll be included at no charge. That promotion is a very short time from us. It expires this coming Friday. So where's the phone? Is it ringing? So I want to, again, I think we're wrapping it up. You're going to finish your final votes. It's hard for me and emotional for me to find the right words to tell you how grateful I am to the manufacturers, the attendees, the online viewers, my family who not only put up with me but worked day and night with me here, along with my terrific staff. So it's really been a lot of fun for us, a lot of excitement, and a lot of long hours here in the last few months. Let's do Q&A. Let's do questions and answers. So for Q&A, anybody in the room can ask any questions to our panel, as well as to our esteemed keynote speakers. And while we even have manufacturers here, we might even be able to speak with them. Now, I'll tell you that one of the questions that I've been getting a lot is about can we get LG to do black frame insertion like allegedly Samsung is doing on. They are, okay, as they are doing on Samsung.
I would like to ask the same question.
So that question is been asked to me hundreds, if not thousands of times, and basically that'll help us with our motion resolution. Right. And it seems like it's available, so you may not want to answer it today, although if you do, we'd encourage that. But we certainly encourage you to consider that, along with a couple of the minor firmware tweaks. Okay, and we have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, oh,
so you
great.
might want to stand up here with us.
Okay, well, you know, in terms of that, I don't know that I can stand here and promise we can or can't do it, but what I'll say is we have representatives from our sister company, LG Display, who makes the panels, and our chief picture quality engineer from LG Electronics, and they heard the messages here loud and clear. We've taken a lot of notes, and we appreciate the frank feedback, and we'll continue to do everything we can to continue to make these panels the best they can be.
Beautiful. We want you to do that, and we thank you for wanting to do that as well. If we can just continue on with a couple of LG questions. These are tough questions, so that I got posed to me many, many times. And
Come on, it's Sunday night.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Questions to ask?
I'm sorry.
Well, clearly everyone is interested in LG OLED.
Yeah.
Clearly, everybody is interested. There's a very large interest, and I hope you have the capability to build them in high volume, because I know, speaking for me, I'm going to sell a lot of them, and I'm sure all retailers will. And I want one as well. So other questions that came up were, I'm going to get my pad out. One of them was, by the way, LG for the OLED and for the 84-inch UB9800 has a special set of service personnel and level of service that's a little bit above the rest of their line. So as I understand it, and I'm probably not saying it as elegantly. So some of the issues that I've had or people have told me about, and by the way, we've sold about 15 LG OLED televisions since they came out about 8 months ago of the 2 models that we've had available to us. And one of the issues that I have read twice on the internet was that people were complaining about some subpixels that died. Now, I believe them to be true. You read it on the internet, it must be true. And I've read it twice, and I've seen it, reposted and spoken about quite a bit. And of the 15 that we've experienced, including our sample here and our sample here, our new one, I can report 15 units, not hundreds, with a grand total of 2 subpixels that were stuck. I don't know if they got unstuck. It's very hard to see them. You got to get up real close. And stuck usually die, which is a good thing, because then they don't emit light anymore, and they always unstick themselves or die. But I can tell you that the level of service out of LG only exceeded, the only thing that exceeded the picture quality was the incredible service that these people have gotten. So that's been exceptional. And I don't know if you want to address that in any further, and there's one more LG issue. Did you want to?
Yeah,
I'm gonna find my paper
I'll just
here.
say the OLED products that are on the market now, the first one has been on the market for about a year, and I don't know of any widespread issues of dead or stuck pixels. Robert, as you mentioned, you found 2. I can't say definitively that it's never happened, but if somebody buys a panel and finds an issue with it, I appreciate your comments about our level of service. All I can say is, direct you to our fine service organization, and they'll take good care of you.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, let's shut off the AC because it's
Chris is
a little
cold.
noisy. Yeah, Ken Ross. Ken Ross.
I understand what the mechanism is, why it is done.
Yeah.
The question for the people on the web was both of the OLED displays have automatic brightness limiting, which is actually more aggressive than the plasma displays we've had. So in other words, if you show a white screen or a checkerboard screen that has a lot of white on it, that white will be quite a bit dimmer than our 40-foot Lambert's peak target. I don't know if the engineers want to answer that question for us, why that happens. Our assumption, I don't want to speak for LG, obviously, our assumption was it was to maximize the life of the display, perhaps? To maximize the life.
Because remember, their base OLED is white. Excuse me, their base OLED is white. So I do know on a full white screen, they are only really emitting the white OLED and very little RGB is coming through. So that right there is going to dim the panel significantly. And per my measurement, it went down to 13-foot Lamberts compared to about 104-foot Lamberts, 106 I think it was, for a 10% windowed full field white. 10% window white. That's a huge, huge drop.
And by the way, I want to thank you for telling us the size of the window. That's so important when we talk about these things. People do 6% windows, and it just doesn't mean anything really. Let's use standards here. And one thing that I found so interesting was when I never look at these things and I never care. But this panel is considerably brighter than the EA 9800 and 8800, and yet its rating for drawing electricity is $17 a year. So somehow they got the panel brighter and significantly more energy efficient at the same time.
And you know, in defense of the LG with regular content, I hardly ever noticed it.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's right.
Dwayne.
Again, nothing's going to be 100% white all the time except for Apple commercials.
Right, Dwayne always made Dwayne was the originator of that comment that, you know, the ABL is going to kick in real world content. Apple commercials are the most obvious thing.
David?
What?
Could we, if they're willing to, could we hear LG's response to Ken's question regarding the ABL?
Would LG like to respond to Ken's question?
I don't have much to add other than the explanation that was given. The other reason is if there's a static image on the screen, it'll start to limit the brightness as an anti-image sticking mechanism as well. So there's some built-in countermeasures to prevent that.
And do you think it's a little unfair of me to ask, while we have top-level engineering people, if they would make us a promise to do these very minor, what we call minor firmware fixes? Can we ask now? Is that unfair of me?
Again,
Okay.
I'm not an engineer, so I can't say what's minor and what's not. But like I said before, you know, these guys came here from Korea to support us in this event. They were very interested to see the results and to experience it and to really get a sense of, you know, the passion of this crowd. And I think they heard the messages loud and clear. What I can promise is that they have taken copious notes, and that we'll look at each and every one very seriously. And whatever we can do, we will.
Very good.
I would like to say
Yeah, please.
comment on that. You know, we are considered the 2%, you know, the video files, okay? And I can tell you from being in the corporate world, being in the 2%, marketing doesn't care about you. I just want to make this note about marketing. See, just like in the States, they call it, in the economy, they call it trickle-down economics, where the 1% dominate everything. When it comes to video, the 2% actually do impact the other 98%. Because what happens is we know how these things are supposed to look. We care about this, right? But then the reviewers come looking at us to get tips on how to write their reviews, okay? And the 98% look at those reviews from those magazines and those websites. So again, we have power in this actual field. Okay, so please pay us attention. We're not doing this just to be doing it. We're not, you know, complaining, or as you may think we are, just to be complaining. We're trying to build a better product for everyone, not just the 2%, but the 100%. Okay, please.
Don't underestimate the 2%.
This is where the 2% cares about 100% of the people.
Exactly.
Isn't that something? We're a bunch of liberals here.
Well, yes.
Somebody's got to do it.
Right.
Are there any questions
Let's
from
see,
the
any
web?
questions here in the audience? Please.
I noticed when the Samsungs were all white, when you had the all white display, I see flickering on the Samsung.
The question for the people in the, I'll repeat the question for the people in the web who didn't want to hear it. The question was, why did the Samsung displays have some flicker when we had a full white image up? That's entirely configurable. We chose to set them up that way with the backlight scanning mode on because that increases the motion resolution of the display. If you find the flicker objectionable, you can turn it off. You can have it the motion plus system set off entirely. You will not get high motion resolution out of that. You could set one of the interpolation modes on, which could introduce other video artifacts to get higher motion resolution, but would do away with the flicker. So really, it's up to you.
That was our choice.
Right.
Which is a trade-off.
Right. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah. Dr. Weber?
Yeah, I have a question. On the back of our sheet, you've got the data with the contrast ratio measurements that you took. What sort of APL levels did you, what was the procedure used for measuring that? I mean, you said you used yeah, well, it was just 50%. It was just a 4x4 checkerboard, so that meant it was 50% APL.
We guess.
It would have to be, because it was just black and white, right? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any questions out in cyberspace? I want to tell you that I have a lot of friends watching online. Whoops, I lost my mic.
Sorry.
Oh, we got some questions.
Okay, we have a whole load of questions from the web.
I think we have to vet them first.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll read the list. Will Sony OLED happen? Of course, by the way, again, I'm from TV broadcast, and I can tell you they make great professional broadcast OLED monitors.
I could
24 inch, 25 inch,
25
inch.
and they are very
They
good.
are fantastic. So please, Sony, how about that?
an OLED
Give us OLED. Yeah,
Well,
give us an
look,
XBR.
You can tell them
Yeah.
that Dwayne and I have been asking them to pursue this
Yeah.
at the consumer level in larger screen
wanna
sizes
comment?
at this event.
Do Sony want to comment on that? Do they want to
Is there
answer for
plans
themselves?
for consumer televisions in OLED?
Just do this and we'll get the idea.
You're coming up here. He's a brave guy.
I'm a brave
You
guy.
are a brave man, yeah.
Yeah, we hear a lot about OLED, and the goal is to provide the best picture quality that we possibly can. And we're looking at all of the different technologies. This year we looked at it and said, what would give you great reliability, great color, large sizes, large resolution, and we chose to evolve the LED TV. But it doesn't mean that we have walked away from every other technology. So we are researching to figure out we will study further. We are looking to determine what's the best approach for the years to come.
Well, you actually produced the very first consumer OLED.
Yeah, we've done OLED. We did OLED
Before
everybody else. You know, we showed the first OLED at CES in 4K 2 years ago. So it's not the fact that we're not looking for that next thing. We're just looking for what today is going to give you the best performance today, and we truly believe that the screen sizes, the resolution, and the impact of something like a 950 was the approach we were going to take this year. So we're looking. We haven't completely not.
We want you to.
Where is Panasonic?
Right, that's another question. Is the Sony-Panasonic collaboration still a thing? I believe they're doing it for small
They're doing it for
screens,
smaller OLEDs.
not for
Which
TV
is
sizes.
tablets and cell phones, I believe, is what I understand from Greg Tarr again.
One question from the web is, what are the calibrators, what are the experts and feelings on Darby Vision? Any kind of, do you mind if I answer first? As
Well, actually, you could. You're the
as someone
Sophisticated edge enhancement.
very
as
nice
somebody who's involved in Blu-ray video encoding, what we encode on the disc is what we want you to see. Okay.
Don't enhance it with edge
If there, it's a novel take on detail enhancement. If we felt this was necessary, we would be encoding it into the signal on the disc. The idea of when we sit down with, I mean, I don't personally do this, but when the filmmakers sit down and they look at the approved video masters, what they're approving is really what we want to put in the home. It's my job to preserve that as much as I can. The idea of a box sitting in the signal path just doing its thing indiscriminately is not something we'd recommend.
I'd like to add something to that because I recently asked, I'm not going to name any names, but it's no longer a standalone box. It's being built into Blu-ray players. It's being built into video processors. I'm not going to name names, but I did ask a manufacturer friend of mine who's put it in his product, said, I got to ask you this off the record. Did you do this because you believe in it, or did you do it because of market demand? And I got a very big fat laugh, and you know what that means. He didn't do it because he believes in it, but the market is demanding it of him.
One thing to add to that, I mean, for example, the Oppo player, Oppo sells a player that has this tech in it now, and people are paying attention to it. One thing I want to point out is Oppo have always had features in their players which distort the video signal. They had a color enhancement, they had noise reduction control, sharpness enhancement. Right, exactly. You can turn off just because it has
Still great, probably the best Blu-ray player.
Just because it has a brand attached to it doesn't mean it's suddenly a good idea.
I'm going to tell you a question that I get asked a lot about Dr. Larry Weber. Everybody thinks we're BFFs, and we are. And the question they keep asking is, they're so proud of you and taking us out of the 300-pound CRTs to a flat panel, not only to make it into a plasma type, which everybody loves, but to just get us into a flat panel that we can hang on a wall and bigger screen sizes, and obviously they love plasma. So what I keep getting asked is, can you please help with the future development of OLED in particular? And I get so many people asking me to beg you to do that. So can you answer what you're doing and what your thoughts are?
Well, right now I'm pretty much retired, but I mean, one of the things that I am very proud of, even though plasma is sort of the lights going out on plasma, is that plasma was really made all these displays the high quality displays that they are. The liquid crystals, the OLEDs, whatever it was. The plasma was always the target to shoot at. You know, there was always some technology that was going to be a plasma killer. Well, they didn't kill it on the technology. They killed it on the fact that marketing didn't occur on plasma. And so if marketing's not going to occur, the public just doesn't believe in it anymore, okay? But anyhow, so I'm still going to be around. I'm not really actively doing any research. But you know, believe me, people still talk to me about a lot of stuff, and hopefully we'll continue to make these displays better and better. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Weber's going nowhere fast.
That's right. That's right.
There's another question, one for Samsung, which is a very interesting one. Samsung, are there any plans for pulse driving your OLED displays that is not using sample and hold and dark frame insertion, but to drive the display more like a plasma? Is that possible? Do you have any comment? One sec, we'll get the mic over to you. Or come up here.
Really definitive comment. Do I need to hold the mic? Yes. I mean, I would say that we have, there's a feature in there that is a pulse type feature that Joe talked about earlier that allows the plasma to improve the motion resolution. I can't speak to whether or not driving the plasma with a pulse type driving plasma, the OLED. I wouldn't be able to speak to the, you know, how that would work or yeah, what the case would be on that. But there is the technology in it now that allows for a similar effect. Essentially with the, I believe it's the same clear motion function in the OLED that is essentially creating that impulse type response from it to get rid of that sample and hold effect. Do you want to? Yeah. Okay.
There was really only one thing about Samsung OLED that I was unhappy with, and we were both sitting here talking about it. It's the off-axis viewing the color, right? When you're on axis, it's tight. You go off-axis, and everything looks, if you'll forgive the term, full.
Okay.
Whereas on the LG, when you went off-axis, it would hold it more. Is there anything?
Not true. It's not true. Dr. Weber went over that in his presentation. However, yeah, Dr. Weber went over that in his presentation, but what the white OLED does is it makes it across the screen. It's almost like a matted screen, how it reflects light. It smears it across. Think of it in that fashion when it comes to this.
So when you go off-axis,
you're off-axis, yes, it does. You don't see it as much because it's well, you can't. Well, it's there. Your brain, I guess, is perceiving it as not being much because it's across the entire screen.
okay.
Whereas with this one,
When we terminate, right?
right,
Visual screen is determined by what my brain is.
right, exactly. You're
I wondered if Samsung pull my brain is perceiving it a little bit.
Very well.
I'll have to get back to you. I'll have to get back to you on that. Yeah.
Hey, sit over there.
We have a couple more questions here. Thank you. Thanks for
Here's a question we spoke more about. If we can get your attention, it's a question we answered last night. Will 4K Blu-ray happen? The Blu-ray Disc Association aren't here. All signs point to yes, and we have to be patient.
Right.
And I hope it comes sooner rather than later. Do these giant panels have smaller counterparts in the same models, 55, 65?
Yeah, and I kind of covered that a little bit earlier.
Wait a minute, that's a Wendy question.
Yeah, most everything is, you know. Yes, and real quickly, the Sony X950B, which is an 85-inch here, comes in a 65-inch. From my evaluation, without using their help, I couldn't see any difference in any variation. And this panel comes in, you know, like 40-inch, 50-inch, 55-inch. It's an HU, Samsung HU 8550, 60-inch, 65.
Screen sizes
are edge lit versus this direct array. 65, 75, and then the 85. And by the way, same amount of local dimming zones. So it's not that you're really getting any better black level or precision there, but you are getting better screen uniformity on this direct lit than you are on the smaller sized HU 8550s. Screen uniformity is beautiful. This is, again, I kind of gave you my bottom line on these smaller panels, but on the larger screens, everybody's, you know, to me, the 85 inches, the new 85 inches, the old 65. People are going for up to 75 and 85 very quickly. At least that's what we're seeing in our sales trends. So they're going for ultra-large, ultra HD TVs. And if that's what you're looking at, these are the ones to pick from. We've already done all the work of figuring out which are the very best. So now you can take your matrix and say, hey, I'm just going to look at 85-inch class or 79-inch class or 65-inch class and compare them and know that these are relative to the 65-inch. So, yes, they come in that size. This comes in what sizes? 55, 65, and 79. And the HU 9000 comes in 55, 65, and 78. Bingo, thank you. And the F8500 comes in 51, 60, and 64. And by the way, we tilted it. You know, you know, Plasma has perfect off-access viewing, but they have a louver filter on this one that's more aggressive on the top than viewing from the bottom. But we tilted it, but not enough. Yeah. So it's really tilted more for your seat and behind you to be perfect. But in your front row, you're seeing it darker than it actually really is. And it's being disadvantaged by being up so high.
Do we get a 2-point handicap on that?
I think we should, yeah.
There you go.
Great, okay, thanks.
Give a shout out to international viewers.
Oh, please.
Hello, I was one myself
Germany.
not so long ago.
My good friend in Germany, name starts with a Y. My other good friend in Germany, I don't know his name. Oh, my God. I have so many friends in the UK right now. Barry is listening, yeah.
Yes.
Yay, Barry. Let's see.
You might have gone to bed already.
To the 16 Marks I know out there, all 16 of you named Mark. Let's see. I'm going to move on. Bobby is out there listening to me in Tennessee.
You're just making up names now, aren't you?
Thank you, everybody in cyberspace. What a great thing for you to do to tune into this.
Last one is there's a second page of questions. There's one on it. What do we think of the LG OLED grayscale? Well, the charts are going to be in the web. Oh, there's more. Whoa.
Oh, yeah, here comes a few more. These are not vetted questions.
The charts are on the web, right? What do you think of?
Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah.
Well, being that I was the one that calibrated the LG, with the control set, once you know how to use it, you can get a ruler flat, literally ruler flat grayscale. My only take back on that and opportunity is you should not have to use unique steps to get this. You know, it should be where, regardless of what we use with the other control set, the grayscale controls are encoded basically to function the same way. I shouldn't have to, for instance, I should not have to set contrast at a certain number and the backlight at a certain number to do the calibration. I should be able to set that in our parameter list as is, then go to the grayscale, make the adjustment, and it works.
Particularly given the fact that the 100% contrast number is clipping white pretty badly.
Correct.
Look at what
So,
Sony did with 2 controllers.
right. So again, I refer back to Sony that is doing what they're doing and what you can see online with their grayscale PDF and chart, that they're doing excellent with just 2-point grayscale. So that's my only take back. This has perfect tracking with the 20-point, but you have to know what you're doing. And then there's a certain technique on setting it up that has to be followed for it to get it right. If you don't follow the technique, it will come out wrong.
Another good reason to do business with ValueElectronics.
Is Chroma replaceable yet? Next question. Well, let's all answer that.
Next question.
Is Chroma replaceable yet?
I still have curl at my house. I don't see anything on this wall, unfortunately, that's ready to dethrone what I have at home yet. That's not to say that it's not coming. Again, these 2 displays right here are that close, that close to getting my money out of my pocket to replace the 5 curls I have at home.
And they are significantly better in black level.
Now, black level, automatically, they trump it, hands down, hands down. But because of color and other issues, particularly for me, I don't like curve displays. You know, I have yet to find that I can take these and replace them. That's for me. Now, again, can't say that for anyone else, but for me, I can't replace my Chroma.
I concur.
Yeah. Well, excuse me, I do as well. 1 second. But the curve on this is extremely minimal. So, okay. Okay.
You either concur or you don't.
Well, there's still a flat LG OLED available, and we'll see. Unless they, like I said, they all had dust in their eye. Looks like more are coming.
Question for Samsung. Can they make any comment on 2015 OLED? Does Samsung want to announce wait for it to be officially announced, I think is the answer.
Tim had a good slide. Come see us at CES.
Well, that's for LG, but we're asking Samsung
I think
to,
the response is going to be similar.
Yeah.
to have successor models to the KN55.
Sony?
No announcements to make, but come to CES.
Nothing being said publicly. So we won't repeat it.
Nothing that we'll say privately.
Okay.
Nothing
So
you'll
come
say
to-
with a
come
web
to
feed on.
CES.
I would say.
Okay, I see them all saying yes. Come to CES. I don't know if that's a clue or not, but that's the way it looks.
The one thing I can say is I can say that we have shown other models. I believe at ESO last year.
Yeah.
We showed a 4K model, 4K OLED. So obviously they're researching, they're investing, they're exploring. So
They're hard at work. They're hard at work. Okay.
That's great. I hope that this type of an event helps persuade the top highest level management at Samsung to very seriously move forward that way.
We want OLED.
We want OLED.
They're working as fast as they are, as diligently as they can.
Very good.
Can we give you some money to make you work faster?
Yeah, maybe.
I guess on that hopeful note, that's the end of the
That's
questions.
it, huh?
Yeah.
That's it. Any comments from the panel or from Joe Kane or Dr. Weber or anybody else in this room? Any comments about anything at all? Very good. This was a great event, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm very, very grateful to everybody that helped us especially and everybody who participated. Have a great night. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. This was awesome. This one was real good.
Thank you, sir. You were fantastic, as always. You were unbelievable, as you always are.
Thank you.
I need to borrow any videos because I got to sit with the LG real quick. Show them one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for.
What an honor. That was unbelievable. Thank you. I hope that you'll do this again with us. Don't tell me that's your cell phone.
No, I just was checking time to find out what time the next
Oh,
train.
okay. Oh, that's an easy thing, yeah.
Half an hour from now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, this is my cell phone.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I haven't moved beyond this technology.
All right. I won't ask why. We're still on an open mic.
You really don't want to start messing.
All right, that's good. We'll talk about it another time. Okay. Yes, and I can take it from you, actually. And you did one as well, right? Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good, 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 good. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I filled out demo because I actually looked around.
Okay, that's great. That's great. That's great. You enjoyed it? Thank you so much. I'm so glad you came.
I drove in.
Ah, it works.